Double Eight, even though it's about food and food access and some degree jobs, at least the jobs those folks there at Double Eight had, this is not about food. This is not really a conversation about food. Double Eight's closing is just another immediate example of a system that's not working, a flawed and failed system that's not working. And that system is grounded, a lot of that system failure has led to large amounts of concentrated poverty, larger and growing amounts of income inequities, and the inabilities of current models to adequately address the crisis of poverty and income inequity, often wrapped in the challenges of race and class. So yeah, Double Eight, an issue we should talk about, but at some point we need to try to step above the issue of the moment, the ongoing crisis, and look more deeply at some structural issues that are continuing to consume communities so that they're not able to even get beyond the moments of the food desert. First thing we have to do is have some real talk, create some space and place to have some real talk about what is going on the ground. And that conversation, at least as it relates to the African American community, it has to be grounded in some real conversation around race and what race means, has meant, and continues to mean as it relates to the conditions that communities find themselves in. If we take Indianapolis as an example, and this is just a microcosm of other places, it changes based on the local landscape, but there's really very little real conversation taking place around the role that race plays in decision-making in communities. Indianapolis, Indiana, for the most part, the decision makers, the real decision makers, the guys that decide is it left, is it right, is it up, or is it down, it's still a very small, concentrated group of white males. Now, that is not a crime. That's not a criminal act. But it does influence and shape how decisions are made. And that particular group needs to make itself accessible and prepare themselves to have some authentic and real conversations around the challenges that exist in communities of color that actually, I think, this whole thing with police in America has forced some dialogues to begin to take place, authentic conversation to take place, that there is some problem here. South Carolina would be another example that now is forcing some real conversation in a lot of different circles. Now, if that conversation, if it's not taking place, to expand it to include the decision makers, folks that are involved with resource distribution, to have some real honest conversations about that, that cannot and must not be limited to the role that the individuals who live in these communities must take in their own improvement. And what I mean by that is often when we talk about the challenges in these communities, there's a lot of emphasis on what they haven't done, what they need to do, and very little emphasis on what are the structural components, the barriers that have been created and stand in the way of these communities moving forward. So that's one part of moving forward. The other part of moving forward is Authentic leadership, leadership that is concerned in these communities, indigenous leadership who is courageous enough and authentic enough to step outside of their own self-interest, their own organizational interests, and look to embrace some solutions driven through the idea of self-reliance, self-determination, and creative solutions that can draw on existing resources that already exist in those communities and create some additional social capital and cultural capital in the midst of this challenge.